Robert Cristobal. From my experience, I the first time I heard him was last year in also one of these online events for GoAb, and he never failed to inspire. So I'm pretty sure he's gonna do the same this time. So Robert is the founder of NX Story Studios, a Silicon Valley-based content marketing studio that helps startups and nonprofits and hospitality brands clarify their stories before they scale. So, and with him will be Bernadette Lagman. So she'll be joining in later on, joining Robert for Q&A session. So Bernadette is a founder of CareerDebt, which is a software engineering recruitment firm built to close the gaps between job seekers and their next opportunity. So we have very talented and um, people that have been in this industry for our event today. So I'm excited to hear them. All right, Robert, I'll hand it off to you and you can start.
I'm on mute. All right. Thanks, Prince. So good evening from where I am. I'm here in Silicon Valley now. Bernadette is like, I think, half an hour away from me in downtown San Francisco. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Not going to waste any more time talking about myself. There's not much about me anyway. Okay. Let me start with a question. You can raise your hand if you want. How many of you feel like your business is growing, but your brain is getting more crowded every week? Anyone? Okay, no one's raising their hands. Okay, it's not because you do not know what to do. It's not because you're not working hard enough. It's because you are the only one holding and handling everything, right? The ideas, the content, the planning, the emails, client work, marketing, editing, decisions, like practically everything, right? So after a while, the problem is not productivity anymore. The problem is your capacity, your mental bandwidth. And most solopreneurs, we are not stuck because we don't have the tools. We have access to the tools right now. We're stuck because our brain has become the project manager, the creative director, the assistant, and the storage drive at the same time, with everything that we're doing. That's why today I'm not going to be talking about AI as a trend. There's a lot of content out there. I'm here to talk about AI as a second brain, not something that replaces your thinking, right? Something that holds structure to your mind so you can focus on what actually matters. So I'm gonna be uh, demonstrating some tactics that I also use for my own company here in the US, Next Story Studios. So I'm not going to be talking about more tools. I'm not going to be talking about hacks, but I'm going to be talking about better workflows, real ones that solopreneurs can actually use without burning out. Yeah, technically, I'm a solopreneur here in the States, but I have another company in the Philippines. So my whole team is based in the Philippines right now. There's 7 of them. And yeah, I can still pay their salary. So far, they are still 7. I don't know what's going to happen in a couple of weeks. Okay. So if this works by the end of this talk, I do not want you to think that was interesting. All right. I want you to think I cannot keep working the way I have been working. That's the mindset shift that I expect to happen after we're done with our very quick demonstration and presentation. Okay. All right. So most solopreneurs, as I've said, we don't burn out because we're lazy. We burn out because we are doing the job of 5 people at the same time, right? We switch. So what are the tasks that we are usually switching? Hardest part, it's not the work, it's the switching. So we switch from strategy to emails. One minute you're doing strategy and another minute you need to reply to your emails, right? At first that feels fun, that sounds fun, but believe me, it's not. And then from emails, you need to jump to social media, right? Then from social media, you need to jump to doing client calls and then planning, right? So this is where AI becomes powerful, not as a shortcut, but as a second brain. So I want to show you how solopreneurs can use AI to think clearer, decide faster, and get more done without feeling like you are working all the time, right? So let's make this real, right? So your brain never gets to stay in one place, right? I think I mentioned that, right? Okay, the real problem. It's not time management. It's cognitive overload. You're holding too many decisions in your head. Like, what should I post? What should I work on? How do I reply to this client? How do I price this service? What should I build next? You know, the software developers, like you guys are like your superpowers, like building applications. You can probably build like right now, like 10 applications in a week, right? AI helps because it takes some of the thinking load off your brain, not by replacing you, but by giving you somewhere to think out loud. Right? Right? So that's a bit of the introduction. I'm gonna jump into my first tactic demo. Let me show you what that actually looks like in real life. Right? So I'm gonna share you a process that I'm using. I won't even claim that I'm the best at what I'm doing. You know, I do stuff that is working for me, you know, and for my clients. So it's about, you know, finding that sweet spot, and hopefully with what I'm going to be showing tonight, you might pick up some techniques and tweak it, you know, make it applicable to what you're doing. So just to be clear, what I'm not going to be sharing you this, you should not treat this like a rule of thumb, you know, that this is the best way forward. No, no, it's not. But it's working for me. So I hope and I believe it will work for uh, some of you also, right? Okay, first, use AI for thinking, not just writing. Most people use AI like Google. Unfortunately, you know, I know people even here in the States, they still treat like their AI tool like Google because they're tired of going to Google, asking a question, and then scrolling for the right answer. And it helps at some point doing that, treating AI like Google search. But the real power is when you use AI like a thinking partner, right? So let me go to some fun stuff here, right? By the way, AI is not replacing your thinking, it's giving your thinking somewhere to go. Let's talk about where most. Oh, okay. I have to go to the demo. All right. So, just an introduction. Are you seeing my tab now? So, I build custom GPTs for my clients, and I also build custom GPTs for me, for my use in my company. So, I have two custom GPTs here. One is I call it the next agent, like my main creative custom GPT, and I have a mailer because I'm going to be doing a demonstration on how you can use ChatGPT for mails. All right. Okay. So the question is, would you be getting the same output by using ChatGPT? Okay, not necessarily. Depends on how you're using it. But for me, I built a custom GPT that understands how I work, how the company works, the value that we provide to our clients, and our methodology, you know, our tone of voice, our messaging. It's all dumped in to this custom GPT. So whatever I ask this custom GPT, it gives me an output as if I'm the one giving the output, you know, something like that. Um, this is a different topic, but at the end of the presentation, if you would stay, there's a QR code there. I will be sharing like a cheat sheet on how you build like a brand story that you can then input to your custom GPT and then come up with something similar. Okay, so let's go to this uh first demo, right? Okay, so my first task, like every one of us, we are bombarded with like a million emails, right, on Monday. We don't know which email to reply to, right? I hope you can relate to that. Well, for me, I would, what do you call this? Create uh, a prompt. No? I would put in input a prompt so that my custom GPT will help me reply to the email in the way that I'm supposed to reply because I already trained it. I put in the knowledge base for it. So I have here. I'm just gonna copy and paste to save time. Okay, so I don't know if you can see it. Let me just make this bigger. Probably, yeah, you can see it. All right. So I need to reply to a potential client who is inquiring of our services. I do not want to sound hard selling, no, just being present in the conversation. Here's my initial thought, which I want you to polish in the style of Next Story Studio. So this is what I want to say. Hi, Angel. Thank you for reaching out. Appreciate the information. I want to take so the basic stuff like this is if I'm gonna be doing it like straight out of my brain, but because there's AI now, I have a second brain to help me polish my thought, right? All right. So this is very basic. This is what I want to say. So when I run this, let's wait. Yeah. Yeah. So it gives me wait. So it gives me this. I would should call this a draft, but depends if I'm lazy. I'm gonna dump this on my mail, right? Yeah, it depends how lazy I am or how busy I am. But because I trust my custom GPT to think and talk like me because I've trained it, I would trust the draft. So basically polishing what I initially drafted. Okay. So usually, just to give context, before I would do a lot of these things. I mean, some of my staff would also do, but this takes a lot of thinking power. Do you believe? Like hours to think. And as I mentioned, the problem is that the cognitive capacity. It takes your brain from something that you're currently doing that's very important. And with the use of AI, as I've said, you have a second brain now. It gives you, a better options, what how to talk to clients. But again, I want to emphasize, I get this output because I have designed a custom GPT. All right. Okay. Next. What this screen? All right. Second one. I only have I think three. Let's talk about where most solopreneurs lose the most time. Right? Now, this one is context switching. The biggest hidden cost for solopreneurs is switching roles every day. Do you agree? Right? Switching roles. Every switch costs energy, as I've mentioned. AI helps you move faster between roles, right? Um, Instead of staring at a blank screen, you start with a draft. That alone saves hours every day. What I'm going to be demonstrating now is this context switching, which is scheduling, right? One thing that I also do, keep my sanity. I would ask my custom GPT to with my schedule, right? I'm a solopreneur running a small business. I help my clients plan and execute social media content based on their brand. So just basically, even if I have already have the custom GPT trained and defined, it helps if I keep reminding it. So here are my priorities this week: finish social media calendar, optimize the content library, plan for the next video shoot, edit pending videos, follow up outreach emails, write newsletters, write our own blogs, invoice client, and of course, I need to listen to Blackpink's new album. All right, I need that. Most important thing, if you ask me. But of course, ChatGPT would disagree. So help me decide what I should focus on first and what can wait, and look at what ChatGPT would do for me. And again, the prioritizing that ChatGPT would do is based on how you work. So I probably have to train it, change the training to prioritize Blackpink. Blackpink. in your area. Okay. So ChatGPT tells me focus first revenue and client commitments. So it gives me the proper order that would benefit me the most, right? Finish, of course, finish the calendar, edit pending videos, invoice clients, follow up. All right. Because according to him, it protects my stability, business stability. Next, go for the system and workflow tasks. I think I know where Blackpink is going to go. Optimize the content library and plan for next video shoot. Then growth and marketing. Also important, energy management. Even has a name, right? This is not a joke. This is actually smart. See, it's smart to listen to Blackpink. Keep this seriously. Creative work needs breaks, and you do storytelling for a living. Just don't do this before invoicing. That's a good advice. So don't listen to Blackpink before invoicing. All right. All right. Uh, Now the third way, last demo. Third way I see solopreneurs use AI that changes everything. Use AI to clarify your message. Uh, Let me just grab my example. Okay, for this example, I'm going to use my custom GPT that helps me answer emails, right? I think I did the email. Okay. This one, another thing that takes my time is when I'm prospecting, I would go to business networking and then I would grab, like right now, I have like this bunch of business cards, right? So usually, I don't know if you have experienced it after going to a business networking, you end up hard selling, on your first email because you want to get your sale, right? Some of you would send like a very awkward hi. I enjoyed talking to you last night at the networking event. And do you want to grab some coffee? Like, well, why would I grab some coffee with you? I only met you last night, right? So we end up doing those things, right? So something that I'm doing with my custom GPT, I have a mailer GPT here, and here is my cold email draft. So my instruction. I met a founder last night at an Alignable meetup. This actually happened last night. So I'm gonna, whatever the output, I probably gonna use it later. He seems to be convinced that video is a great opportunity for him. I need to send him an email outreach, no hard selling, just appreciating the time we had to talk last night and find out about his business. This is the superpower of how I'm using AI now. Back then, manually, I have to go through the website, take notes, see the gaps and opportunities while keeping my brain sane, keeping my sanity, and remembering that as I go through the website, I am picking up the gaps and the opportunities which my business can now tap in, to pitch and to provide a service, to say to roughly to sell, right? But now because of AI and because of what I did to my custom GPT, I just put in the website and then this is my request. Analyze the website, find gaps and opportunities, and then craft an outreach email with 3 quick wins based on the opportunities, something they can easily implement even without Next Story Studio's help. Okay? I'm trying to help. That's what the point is. I'm planting a seed as someone being present and providing the much needed value that can help them. If there's opportunity to help them, good. If not, we move on to the next. This is for you. I even tell ChatGPT, this is for you as a context and not for the potential client because it might include it on the email. Now, because of this, I'm just gonna run this again using my custom GPT. It will give me an output that is very, very useful for me because I don't have to spend 5 hours going through the website manually like I'm doing before AI, right? So there's an introduction here. ChatGPT said, I've reviewed their positioning, messaging, and content structure to identify realistic video content opportunities you could mention without selling hard, just planting the seed. See how brilliant AI can be. So it explains me the analysis, gives me the strengths, the weakness. Again, the way it detects the strengths and the weakness, it is based on how we do work. for our clients. And why I am confident in sharing this is I'm able to close clients using this technique, right? Because the end of the day, it's still me thinking through the AI. Okay, so he identified the weakness, right? You see that? This is something that I would pick after hours of reading the website, right? This is very important for us. Not much personality, storytelling for a brand about leadership and clarity, limited short form, social native content style. Case studies could be more visual, narrative driven. So this is the opportunities where we can help, right? It even gives me multiple options, right? Right? You see that in a split second? Yeah. Now this is the email. Again, based on how I train my custom GPT. Because this is our tone. Friendly, appreciative, helpful, no pressure, gives 3 quick wins. So it even gives me subject ideas. Right? Here, great meeting you last night. Had a few ideas after checking the site. Hi, what's the name of this client? I lost his card. Rafael. Hi, Rafael. It was great meeting you at the Alignable Meetup last night. I really enjoyed hearing about what you're building and how you're helping leadership teams. So this is me thinking through AI because I've trained. I want to always emphasize that this is not something that you can grab on the fly and figure out, using your own custom GPT or your own GPTs. I took a look through the website this morning, although I look at it in the afternoon. And honestly, the positioning is really strong. The messaging is clear, blah, 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 blah. Right? So basically, you see the value of what AI is doing. So for this one, I feel that this is long. No, I would have another input, make it a bit shorter, right? So not trying to sell you anything here. Just enjoy looking at the business through storytelling lens. If you ever want a second set of eyes on content ideas. So yeah. So imagine how many hours it saved me. First, from analyzing the website and then crafting this email. Okay. Okay, we're almost done. So AI is not about doing more, it's about carrying less in your head. When you are a solopreneur, the hardest part is not the work, it's being alone in the decisions. Do you agree? So AI becomes useful when it becomes your second brain. Place to plan, a place to draft, a place to think, a place to organize, a place to test ideas. So I've demonstrated 3 because that's the amount of time that we have on our plate. But there's gazillions of ways. The idea is, my encouragement to you is, whatever you're doing that's very difficult, write it first or type it on a document, and then just ask the smart question with whatever, even if you're using Claude or ChatGPT, or you're already in the, what's that, OpenClaw, is that it? It's like super difficult to set up. Okay, so I think that's what I have, but I have here a QR code. If you can quickly do a screenshot or whatever, get the QR code. So I have a prompt cheat sheet that you can use to define your brand story. It would help, that you can then dump into your custom GPTs that could then help you with using the samples, that I did. And yeah, I hope that's gonna be helpful. But we're not done, because we're gonna be calling the main speaker of the night. She's a lot better than me when it comes to all this AI stuff. All right. So, Bernadette, hi, how are you? So we're gonna be doing the questions
Hi.
later. Don't worry, right? And if you don't have any time for questions, as long as we're still alive, you can ask us. We're always online. So Bernadette runs a recruitment firm. It's people heavy business. Okay. And uh, having the conversation with her, I understand she's also using AI, right? So
Yes.
how did AI enter the picture for you? And can you quickly walk us through if you have a slide? You can present the slide. Yes.
Yes. So unfortunately, I don't come as visually prepared as Robert. Robert is this me in marketing. I'm a recruiter, so I'm a people person. So yeah, so as you know, recruiting is very relationship driven. So there's a massive amount of behind the scenes work I have to do that eats up all of my time. So Robert, I couldn't agree more. Half of the time of my work as an entrepreneur in my business is really just code switching from task to task. And we could probably all agree that that takes a lot of mental energy. So instead of hiring a VA or hiring an intern or outsourcing to a person on payroll, as solopreneurs, we need to protect our revenue. That's the first priority. So a great way to do that is to use AI tools. So I love the aspects you use, Robert, to use it for marketing. I use it the same way in recruiting, whether that's drafting up emails, job descriptions, or outreach messages, both to candidates and clients. So AI pretty much has stepped up the game for me by being an engine behind the scenes to take on all these operational tasks so I could stay focused on what I do best, which is the human side, conversations, the placements, and the relationship building. And maybe all of you could relate to that, right? AI can't replace a lot of the human aspects. So let's utilize it for what it could work on operationally.
All right. So, uh, you use it uh pretty similar to what I'm doing, but you mentioned it's more concentrated on like your HR, the body of work involved in your HR business, right? But I also think that
Yes.
there's also seasons in your life as an entrepreneur where you had burnout. I think we had this conversation
Uh
in
huh.
downtown San Francisco. So, what does burnout look like? That would also our audience can relate to it. What does burnout look like? And for your on
Yes.
your experience, how did AI help you protect the energy?
Yeah. Let me get a show of hands. How many of you have felt burnt out? Yeah. For those of you who have your hands not raised, I think you should be running this meeting. Tell me how you not get burnt out. Because for me, burnt out wasn't just working too many hours. A lot of us left the corporate 9 to 5 job to pursue our passion and to build our dream into a scalable system. So the burnout doesn't come from working on something we're not passionate about. It's not working too many hours. It's about spending hours on things we're not good at or we don't want to do. I know I'm not good at coding or software developing, so I will outsource that to AI if I ever need to hire an engineer so I don't have to do that myself. So I think the focus for us as solopreneurs, especially since we're the only ones running our business, is stay within the zone of talent. Stay in the area where you could deliver the most results. So I realized hours spent on administrative tasks would just drain me. And when I was drained and burnt out, I didn't present myself in the most effective way in front of clients. So AI, specifically using ChatGPT to draft up my LinkedIn search strategies for software engineers and Claude to create marketing strategies has eased up a lot of that time. So now I get to spend a lot of my time doing things that light me up and that give me energy. The strategy, the human connection, and the creative thinking, which I'm sure a lot of you could relate to as well.
Yeah, it's a good thing that you point that out because there's this notion that AI is taking away the jobs of human beings. So in a way it does, but we should also look at it in a way that it gives back a lot of our humanity, something that I've written in my book. By the way, you can buy it on Amazon. It's called The Human Prompt: The Demand for Storytellers in the Age of AI. So as you have mentioned, because AI have helped optimize and streamline your process, you get to have a bit of that time, back, like that human time, which is being creative, right? Spending more time probably away from your computer. And I
Yes.
mean, for us solopreneurs, I tell you, just getting 30 minutes of brisk walk in a day, and especially in the morning, that really supercharges the way to work. um, at the for the rest of the day. And because you are in HR and recruitment, right? Part of your work as a solopreneur, I understand, is looking at the landscape, like how employers behave,
Mm,
how employees or applicants behave. So how do you think AI has influenced both sides in the behavior of
yes.
looking for the right fit, and also the applicants looking for the best opportunity for them?
Yeah, so to give a little context of that, I spent a decade working across Fortune 500 companies like Amazon and Indeed, and this was before AI became a thing. Since the onset of AI, the bar has risen so much. So, because we're a one person team or a small business, employers and clients will expect you to move more faster and produce more work. The same goes if you are working, if you're interviewing for a startup and you're a founding software engineer. 9 times out of 10 on the job description, they will ask software engineers to have standard skills like backend, Java, Python, Golang experience. But what the hiring managers don't tell you is that they want you to know how to prompt AI to run those technologies, to run a lot of the infrastructure, because AI is changing fundamentally the way certain roles will be mapped out. No longer are the days where software engineers will spend a complete 8 hours of their day coding and designing the infrastructure of a platform. Now they'll be focused more on strategy. How can they ask AI the right questions so it could run autonomously? And the strategic position of a software engineer will now evolve, where they'll be less focused on operational work and more on influence, designing the North Star vision of a product end to end, understanding the system design and architecture, and leading those discussions. So the candidate ideally now will embrace a more holistic way of standing out. The employers who are hiring, at least in San Francisco and Silicon Valley, where Robert and I reside, has risen that bar. But that doesn't mean your jobs are going away as a software engineer. It just means we have to think more strategically.
Yeah, and that's really a good insight. I want to uh, pick up like another talking points, and also if while we're discussing this probably last talking point, you can start writing your questions on chat. I see one question now. We're gonna try to answer that later, and depends on the level of difficulty. Thank you, Bernadette, for taking the most difficult questions later. Yeah. So
We'll
I wanna
tag
talk
team.
I wanna talk about solopreneurs having this fear of being less authentic with their use of AI.
Mm,
So for you, how do you, because your line of business compared to me, there's like a mix of tech and customer relationship. But for you, it's like majority you have to really establish the human connection, with both the employers
mm.
and the applicants. But with the use with your use of AI, how do you manage, that feeling, that mindset of being less authentic?
Let me get a show of hands again. How many of you feel like you could be an authentic entrepreneur? If you just go up to a client, you could be yourself, no problem, no filter. That's the truth that I think we need to hold on to. AI is not replacing or trying to take away our authenticity. Our voice still matters. Our truth still matters in running our business. You are still talking to these clients, even though AI is maybe refining your email or creating a pitch for you so you at least have an outline. It's taking that brain energy away required from the churning and analysis paralysis so that you can continue to be in alignment with your authentic self. So AI gives me personally just the first draft, but I give it the story behind it. I give it prompts and I refine it. And I continue to refine it until it sounds like it has my natural voice. And I'm sure you've experienced the same, Robert, and everyone else, where
Yeah.
sometimes you'll ask AI, okay, rewrite this email I'm trying to send to this client so I could acquire them as part of the business. Sometimes chat will give me something that sounds very robotic. It is chat after all. So I'd have to train it. And that's the thing with these models. You have to train it until it familiarizes itself with your personality. And so from understanding my voice, my experience, and my judgment as far as what's right to the client, AI will be able to encompass my personality. In fact, make things more authentic for me, except now at scale. So nothing comes from just throwing it into the machine without putting some effort and thought behind it. I think AI just removes the initial blank page problem where we're stuck in trying to figure it out, and we get there a lot faster. So in ChatGPT, there's actually a way, let me see if I could share my screen here, where you could um, change the, let me make this bigger, sorry. Oh no, this is not a good demo so far. Where you could go to settings. Let's see here. And you could pretty much just change the personalization. So if you want it more warm, I think I'm pretty warm and enthusiastic. So far, this is on point. If you think you want to be more nerdy, you could make it more nerdy, more friendly. So again, keeping it as personalized to you as if you are talking to a person live. You want that to be synonymous to how you communicate both offline as well. And AI will only help enhance that.
All right. Is there anything else that you would be demonstrating, Bernadette?
I have one more demonstration I could show you as far as how I now look for candidates. So let me share my screen here. Give me 1 second.
Lucky for the other recruiters in the audience.
Are there other recruiters? Yay. Okay. So recruiters in the house. Usually when we get a job order, we have to manually look at what are the top technologies. For my technical recruiters, we have to search on LinkedIn. So the first thing I used to do manually is you go onto LinkedIn, go into recruiter, quick demo. Do you see how many steps this is taking so far? This will probably take me around 30 minutes to an hour to find candidates, right? So I build out projects, and then I'll have to go back and forth to the job description and see, okay, this person needs TypeScript. So on the recruiter search, which will go here, you have to edit this manually every time. TypeScript, and go through 100 plus candidates. With the onset of AI, what I love about it is you could build out projects to prompt AI so you don't have to rebuild this search. So what I did is I created a source where I uploaded the job description that I showed you there. I just downloaded it as a PDF with the same tech stack that I would manually otherwise need to input into LinkedIn Recruiter, except chat has it as context. And then based on my previous searches, I uploaded the top 3 candidates that I feel like would best match the profile. So it will say the company name, trajectory, years of experience. So feeding AI as much information as possible will help you more in the long run. So after that, I would ask AI, conduct an X-ray search. Let me scroll up so you can see the prompt. Write me an X-ray search to find 10 candidates for this role, referencing the job description and the examples I sent you. So AI will just verify, making sure all of this is accurate, and they will create this Boolean search. So instead of going on LinkedIn, I now just simply copy this, and it just takes 2 clicks. And I'll be able to find software engineers straight out of a Google search. So I don't even need to pay thousands of dollars for LinkedIn Recruiter anymore. And as you can see, based on the initial profile, these person, they even have their resume. They have good trajectory and relevant skills as listed on the job description. So that's one way that AI has optimized recruiting in my workflows.
Is that a hidden secret or like a secret sauce?
You just cracked the code to my business. So I hope you don't become my competitor now.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the things I love about this, right? Because each of us have our own specialty, and who else knows about what we do. But this is a good start.
Yeah.
Robert,
okay, so I think we can start answering the questions. I mean, is that okay? I have a question here from Joseph. So I'm gonna be providing the elementary feedback, and Bernadette would be swinging in to give that PhD answer. Okay, so the question is, let me just zoom. How do you know when your use of AI is actually productive and profitable versus procrastination / productivity theater? Okay, for me, the way I determine it is at the end of the task, Did something actually move forward? Or did I just end up with a lot of ideas? Okay. If my business went forward to what it's supposed to do, like for example, generate leads and not just come up with ideas, I would know that it's productive because procrastination with AI, you end up creating activity that feels smart, but it really doesn't change anything, in my opinion. For example, if you spend an hour asking AI to rewrite the same caption 10 different ways, I don't think it's productivity, right? But if you use AI to structure your content calendar, organize your ideas, or prepare something that will actually be sent to a client, like the emails that I did, that is productivity. Another way that you check, I mean, if you use of AI ends with a deliverable, scheduled, sent, publish. Okay, simply put, that's productive. But if you end up with like 100 tabs on Google Chrome and no deliverables, but still you use AI, that is what is probably Joseph called productivity theater. Yeah. So you have anything to add, Bernadette?
Yeah, so I think we also need to practice patience. At least I know I do. With AI, sometimes we think that the iterative ROI will happen in the blink of an eye. I prompt AI to draft all of my emails. So by next week, I don't need to prompt it. It should know it already. But the truth is, the more we prompt and feed information to AI, the more refined it will become. It's a CI/CD method, continuous integration, continuous development, the same aspect we use in the philosophy of DevOps in the engineering world. So the more we could create iterations and make it more refined and specific, the better it will be at scale. So I know, for example, sometimes I will think, Joseph, the same thing. Am I just procrastinating? Because sometimes it will take me 10 minutes to really prompt AI and I'll get frustrated saying, why doesn't it just get it? You're making this too much of a hard sell, or this needs to be softer. But track the information over time. Track after you send that first question. Next week, when you send it another question to draft a similar email, did it improve? What is the difference? Is the gap slowly closing? Because for me, I noticed that the first time I asked the question, I maybe have to check in with AI 3 times to provide feedback. By the next week, maybe only 2 times. So just understand it may sometimes feel like procrastination and maybe things feel a little drawn out, but how many hours of your day are you saving prompting AI? Once this becomes a full-fledged system, you won't have to prompt it at all eventually.
Yeah, and also to add, I think that is supposed to be a trait of a good entrepreneur is to be intentionally productive. It means you have that in you, that it's like a gut feeling that I'm wasting time, and that I'm being productive. Because I remember when I was back in Singapore, there's a lot of beautiful like malls in Singapore, but I see to it every time I go to the malls because I do design work, right? So every time I go to the mall, I would pick up my smartphone, especially Marina Bay Sands, if you have visited that, because in those high end malls, the display in front, they spent sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to put that design, whatever it is in the facade of the department stores, and the colors of this design. There were already a lot of thought process that went behind it. So what I would do, I would snap a photo on wherever store that is. It can be Louis Vuitton, whatever. If they have like really colorful display, I would snap a photo. So I'm in the mall enjoying, but also because I'm intentional, I want to be productive. And it spiked my interest. Like, hey, this is like an amazing color set. I wouldn't be able to think of it from scratch. So after I snap it, I would go back to my office, feed it on Photoshop or Illustrator, and it generates a color swatch for me. And it helped me. So I was in the mall, enjoying. I was productive. I didn't spend money because Marina Bay Sands is expensive. I would just eat and drink their super sugary iced lemon tea. But I am productive. So yeah, to go back, as an entrepreneur, that should be a trait. Because sadly, if we can't determine at the stage of where we are, if we are intentionally productive or not, that should be ground zero of something that you have to deal with as an entrepreneur, at wherever stage you are right now. Okay. Sorry. There's a question here from a fellow recruiter, George Lynn. I think I know her. So, sabi niya, question from a fellow recruiter, what parts of your sourcing workflow are fully AI assisted today? And which parts have you intentionally chosen not to automate?
So that's a very good question. So this goes back to the integrity and authenticity piece. That is quite the popular dilemma within AI. As a recruiter, it's our responsibility to attract talent. And by doing that, we have to send a lot of messages. We know by the foundations of marketing, the more specialized and curated your message are, the higher percentage of your response rate will be. So sometimes AI does not automate my drip campaign very well. It will create something very generic. And so I've chosen not to completely automate my outreach messages when I reach out to a software engineer. For example, I may prompt AI to give me an initial template of a 3-week drip campaign and the ideal time to message a software engineer, calculating the percentage of time they're usually on LinkedIn and use AI with that data. But once I have the first draft of the email outreach, I will manually still go onto their LinkedIn, see some common interests we have in common, and use that in my message to make it more sincere. And that's just me. I know other recruiters don't go that extra mile, but I personally like to have that personal touch with candidates I work with. So the part that I do outsource, though, is using AI tools for my searches. So Juicebox AI, if you haven't heard of it, is a very cool automated sourcing platform. It works very similarly to LinkedIn Recruiter and ChatGPT for X-ray searches. So I'd recommend checking out Juicebox for a free trial.
Yeah, so that, I guess that also answers a question like other than ChatGPT, are there any other free AI? Is Juicebox free, Bernadette?
Juicebox is free for a week, but I subscribed after a week because it's just been so great. I actually went to their last recruiting networking event here in San Francisco, and they're basically revolutionizing the space of recruiting and AI. So I would highly recommend checking out their product for a free demo for 1 week. But afterwards, you could consider upgrading. It's still a fraction of the cost of what you'd pay for LinkedIn Recruiter.
Or you can create a new email every week, right? Bernadette
Yeah.
Lagman 0325, and then
You got
Bernadette
my
Lagman.
secrets, Robert.
Yeah, why would you pay, right? There's like still gazillions of email address available. Like create a new email address every week. I actually did that. I'm lazy. All
I
right.
do that with
So,
ChatGPT.
okay. In addition to what Bernadette said, I tell you, Bernadette, you have the crowd. You can ask ChatGPT to write me a prompt. This is MQSec Ateza. To write me a prompt for a specific task with all these given facts and also state what outcome you wanted to have. That's good.
That's a good
Tina
point.
Amper, should we answer Tina Amper's question? She can always just call
That's
us,
you,
right?
Robert. That's your question.
I wanna bring in Prince. Prince, I sent you a message.
Yeah, Prince can answer this, right? What about data security daw?
How can you ensure that company-specific questions are only for you? Is this the one for me, Tina? What about data security?
You can answer that, and then we
Uh,
also need to do a time check because we're going up to the hour, and we want to be respectful of people's time. So I wanted to end the main event soon, and then we'll answer all the other questions at the optional 15 minutes. Because Bernadette and Robert, you can stay for another 15 minutes, right? Okay,
16 minutes the most.
go ahead, Prince.
yeah, for us in the company that I'm working for, in terms of data privacy, we use the data. We send the data that we're comfortable sending with, similar to how we send data to other platforms like CMSs, Salesforce, HubSpot, or whatnot. Because like you treat them basically the same as other providers. because they're gonna consume it, use it. Although there are agreements there. So yeah, it's really how much you trust the AI company you're using, Anthropic or OpenAI or Gemini. If you trust this company, then that's also the level of data you kind of like are open to using with them. But if you're strict about data privacy, then you can opt in using some local models instead. They're not as powerful, and setup may be harder. Setting up your own stuff. But yeah, those are really the only two options. It's either you trust the provider or you set up your own local LLMs. So yeah.
So Prince, they told me that if I got a paid account, I can go to settings
Mhm.
and set it up for like private, do not share with LLM.
And
Yeah, I think
You could do
I
that
can
for the
trust
it
free
will
that
not
in
version
a
too.
sense.
hindi
Yeah.
na,
You
I
could do
don't think
that.
they would respect that option.
You know, that's why I want to bring it up.
I mean, I
On
think they respect that in terms of training a specific model. But in terms of their employees not seeing your data, I don't think that's
Oh,
true. Because even for me,
Mm.
I can see the data of our clients. If they have like support questions, then we really have to dig in there and look at the data that we need to look into. So yeah, in terms of like probably training their models, I think they'd respect that. But in terms of their employees seeing your data, I think yeah, they're gonna see it.
that's a good point. And we definitely have to have a session on data privacy
Yeah.
and security, which Liam is going to help us with sometime next month. All right.
Right.
We are ending our main event right now for 1 hour because some of you have other meetings. If you can stay, please stay. Thank you, Robert and Bernadette, for all the discussions. Joey Chan had offered to speak, but he had to leave early. So we'll catch him next time. And for those of you, there were other people who said they had stuff to share, but I don't see them here. But if you wanted to join our next AI meetup, just send us a message. There's going to be a couple of events in April, online events in April. But with that, we're going to then go to our answer the other questions and then do informal networking, which means you can talk about anything you want to talk about. So Prince, Bernadette, and Robert, back to you.
All right. So if you guys still have questions, feel free to drop them in here in the chat. I actually do have a question for Robert. So you talked about using AI as a second brain. Um, yeah, I like that idea, and I actually use that a tiny bit. Although there's a friction for me in terms of like, hey, I have an idea while scrolling. Um, the friction there is like opening the app. So specifically for you, your demo is ChatGPT. Are you using any other tool to kind of like capture an idea and feed it to ChatGPT later, or do you just intentionally open up ChatGPT, open a new session, and write your ideas there, or do
Yeah,
you even use
yeah.
voice or whatnot?
How
Yeah.
I solve it is I bought an extra monitor. So I would have Claude on one monitor, ChatGPT, probably split that monitor, and Gemini. So those are the three that I'm using. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's really a challenge. Like I call it the context shift. I think I mentioned it in the presentation. How I do it, I think it also answers the question about parallel earlier on. I have like container. I have a specific calendar because I believe if it's not in a calendar, it won't get done. First and foremost, for me, that's my discipline. So I have a specific calendar just for my own set of tasks. So I'm very, very strict. If I plan to draft my YouTube video scripts, let's say on a Monday, 9 to 12, unless there's like a super, super urgent stuff, I'm going to be working just on refining my YouTube script 9 to 12 on that specific day. It's difficult. And how I manage it is I turn off everything. Because when you're working and you have the mail tab open, and then a client would go in, or you have Viber or chat or Signal or a messenger app open, it's so easy to be distracted. So for me, that's my practice. If I'm working on a YouTube script, I'm not gonna
Mhm.
be doing anything else.
How about for like on the go ideas, like while you're on the road and you have like a random idea, do you kind of like
I still
push up?
use my old school, this one.
Wow.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
notebook.
Notepad.
I mean, I teach, so part of
Mhm.
the discipline that I teach my students is always bring a pen and a paper wherever you go, especially if you're in a
That's true.
creative line of work. Kasi what I believe is, when you're using your smartphone, I mean, the brain, what gets registered in the brain, normally the brain processes what the human being writes with his hand. Like,
Mhm.
we are created to be like that, to function like that. Even during the cavemen, they do it in the walls, in the stones. But when you keep using your tablet, your computer, the action that your brain is registering, like, is scrolling. That's why, try to ask someone, what was it you are reading 30 minutes ago? Cannot remember, right? Because you have 30 minutes ago, you have scrolled gazillions of, information. But when you write it, you try it, I mean,
Yeah,
when you write it, you would remember it longer than just scrolling and typing on your keyboard.
I agree. It's actually true. Thank you, Robert. I like it. All right.
Yes,
Anybody?
journaling.
Yeah,
I think they
journaling.
Yeah,
commented
very
journaling
important.
works. I was curious if anyone has thoughts on this since Robert and Princey brought this up. Are there any skills you feel like you want to continue refining that you don't want AI to optimize for you? For example, I agree of still bringing a notepad with me so I can still work on my communication skills because even though I want AI to refine it, I don't want those skills to diminish. Has anyone faced similar um, challenges like that?
I still use my brain to
Yes, I still use
imagine
my brain.
to imagine things. Although ChatGPT AI is my second brain, but when it comes to imagining ideas, solutions, strategy, tactics for clients, I still use my brain and my notebook. Yeah.
I wanted to invite Nilmar to talk more about what you posted in the chat. If you can unmute. Because my feeling is
Elmar.
that Nilmar said, I can really validate that using AI helps us improve our workflow faster, helping us focus on important matters. For us, a brand agency, discovery is really a challenging part since it also involves market research, problem discovery. We need to constantly update our questions and other documents, which takes most of our time. But I'm like, but AI can do that for you, in theory.
Most of the challenge for us is like doing the manually contacting with the audience. For example, we are analyzing the funnel strategy, like doing lead magnets among them and traffics, converting traffics to prospects. So most of the time, we are trying to ask the right questions for them, so to get the right answers. But if we don't have a concept system, a good system or tracking system, that what are the questions that we need to ask, so it's really hard for us to know better our clients. So it took us a lot of time doing the finding the right questions or refining our questions and understanding their business and doing the competitor analysis. So we tried to use we tried creating a Claude agent, I think, or skills like Claude Code, and we use the Markdown, and we try to create a workflow for us and the right instructions, the right our own inputs and instructions, their examples. So it really Claude Code really helps us, especially in crafting the right format, the right voice and tone, personality. Uh, from previously we used ChatGPT business, I think. ChatGPT business and creating a custom GPT, but we tried to use transfer or migrate to cloud code since we can use a markdown and update it easily, and we can try pushing it to GitHub for our own privatization, and then my coworker or friends or other um, our partners can easily fetch our updated documents, updated, and they can use it anywhere, and we can easily update it. So for us, it's really a big help that we try to offload our cognitive some part of our workflow and focus more on the important things. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Neilmar. Everyone else, I'm going to start calling names. Ryan, Gabriel, Crystal, Arlie, if you have any questions, please just unmute.
Ma'am.
Kung may question ka, Ryan,
Ah,
or
a
input.
question. Um, what's the, what's what's a way for you AI practitioners to scale your practices aside from, of course, conducting trainings like this? How do you scale it by way of replicating, if not refining your AI practice to your team members? Do you do like a training? Do you host like a session within the company? Do you share best practices? Do you document it, or do you write it into a policy?
For me, I document it because our team is in the Philippines. I document it. I even record videos of processes. So I have a structured project management. So they have access to prompts when they need it. I have like a lot of spreadsheet, but our primary communication tool is Slack. So I use the Canvas tab on Slack. So each client would have its specific channel with the messages there, and then the Canvas, which helps us navigate and go to pertinent links, the links that we need. And yeah, for every documentation that I do, I would just record it. What are your principles when you crafting prompts for AI? Yeah. Bernadette, you give us your
I
inspiring principles.
I think my principles are still, like Robert mentioned, using my brain first. So first I'll come up with my own ideology. Chat is really just there to bounce back ideas, right? It's just there as a wall. It's there to gut check intuitively and get me there faster. But my principle is, this is my company, my brand, so it needs to be my voice.
Yeah, for me, I treat it as a conversation. Sometimes ChatGPT would forget that I train him to do a specific thing in a specific way. So I would input, "Are you kidding me? That's not part of your training." And I notice it helps because ChatGPT would apologize. "Oh, I'm sorry. You're right for, raising that concern, and don't worry, I'm gonna do it moving forward." So I treat it as a conversation, but of course, there's a boundary between, if you do it like 8 hours straight and you're just talking to ChatGPT. He's not an imaginary human being, so you have to be careful. But that's how I treat it, as a conversation. And again, it goes back to how you understand your business. Because as the owner of the business, especially if you're a solopreneur, you have the authority to ask the right question. You have the capacity to ask the right questions. And ChatGPT can help you with that. Once you converse with it using the right questions. Yeah, Timothy said, in my use case, I save a different skill prompt. Yeah, it's the same. I have like a spreadsheet of the type of output that I require and the prompts. And over time, I also learn how to develop it, because you would learn as you use it. You would learn like the triggers in terms of crafting prompts. Yeah.
Um, Especially in the creative sector, you'll meet clients or maybe anyone who would equate AI with AI or with generative AI, which encroaches on the credibility of creative creatives. So, how do you? What language or what framework do you use to debunk that perception that because you're a creative and you use AI doesn't mean that you use AI in your creativity? How do you articulate that?
Can I answer that question?
Yes, you're
Yes.
the most creative person
Go,
here. So go.
Tina.
It's so radical because I'm not a creative, but I'm making. I just attended a session about that AI and creatives and at Rice University, and it was amazing to me because the speakers were artists of many different kinds, like spoken word artists or like painters and digital, designers, that stuff. The mindset was we're it wasn't even we're not using AI. It was about using AI as a tool to make them even better, to make them even more creative than they normally are, and telling the world how they're using AI as part of their practice. Because you can't avoid it, right? Just because you use AI doesn't mean you're talented, right? Because trying to use the different AI tools to further your craft is also a creative thing. So the mindset is not, we're not going to use AI because I only want to be organic and it's all mine. That ship has sailed. So when I attended the session, it was amazing to me how they were using even data sets, like random data sets, and then just saying, this is how I use this scientific data set to fuel my creative work. I'm like, my mind was blown. Anyway, does that make sense, Ryan?
Yes, I actually do wanna like pluck out one word, organic, from what you said, and I was looking for like a metaphor as a way to like quickly explain our AI position. And the way I mean, when you said organic, I think what I took there is just because you're using machines in your farming doesn't mean you can't harvest organic produce. So it's like it's not wise to use everything, all the labor manually, but you can still produce organic vegetables with machines.
The big principle for me is if I want to be the best that I can be and create the best output, I will use all the tools that's going to help me. And I consider at this point AI as a tool amongst all the other things because it's already here. We can't avoid it. We've been using it for years. We just called it something else.
Yeah, I remember the garbage in, garbage out principle when a computer was introduced to our generation, sadly. We discussed that at school, garbage in, garbage out. It's still the same principle. I believe you cannot, a person who would pretend to be creative and he just intends to use AI to prove that he is creative, that doesn't work that way, what comes out of a tool is the skill set of the craftsman. It's the same thing. If I give you Manny Pacquiao's boxing gloves, could you punch Floyd Mayweather the way that Manny Pacquiao can punch Floyd Mayweather, right? It's the same thing with any other tool, right? That's why Bernadette using AI, I am using AI, all of you guys are using AI. We come up with different outputs, which are all based on the innate creativity and the innate intelligence that we have as an individual. It's also a good thing to know that, it's easier to spot fake, pretenders nowadays na super lazy, like input in AI and then show it to the world and claim that, hey, I'm so good. I wrote this stuff, right? It's so easy to spot it nowadays.
Okay, so we are at 16 minutes after the hour. I'm going to say a couple things about Geeks on the Beach, and then I'll turn it over to Prince to close. But for me, the big picture is that for those of us here, based on the questions that you gave on the registration, most of you are already using AI. So congratulations to all of us. We learn as we go. We take lessons. We don't take lessons, but the best way to learn is to do it, and with people that are also in the learning mindset. So thank you for joining us today. We're going to have 2 more sessions next month, but we do have 2 sessions next month. Thank you, Robert and Bernadette and Prince and everyone else. Geeks on the Beach, we are still trying to confirm some major sponsors. If it happens, it's going to be October 7 to 9, 2026. October 7 to 9, 2026. Just save the date. It's likely going to be in Luzon. We probably
Yay,
won't
Luzon.
announce anything until April because we need to have the major sponsors because we are a nonprofit. We can't just do it on our own. So feel free to reach out to us if you have any specific questions. Prince, I turn it over to you. Thank you, Robert and Bernadette.
All right. You pretty much closed it already, Tina, though. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and be sure to subscribe to our Luma calendar so that you'll get updated whenever we have events. So yeah, as Tina mentioned, we have a couple of events coming. We have at least one, right, every month. So yeah, be sure to subscribe to our Luma calendar so you'll be updated. And yeah, see you on the next one.
Yeah. Talk about what's your community again, Prince? Because you have your own AI meetups as well.
Oh yeah, PHPX Cebu. So we primarily use PHP and Laravel. But with the age of AI, we're pretty much using whatever. So yeah. And also Symph has a OpenClaw meetup this Friday. So if you're in Cebu and you're interested in setting up OpenClaws as your personal assistants, please join us. So it's gonna be, I think, 6:30 to 9 at the company or 010 Park Mandawi. So yeah, see you there, guys.
Thank you. See you. I'm gonna stop the
All right.
Thank you, everyone.